welcome back to Holmes Creek near Vernon, Florida. So back in December, my son and I decided to take an expedition to Holmes Creek and check out a spring called Beckton Spring. This is a lesser known spring not too far from Cypress Springs. Just a short paddle down the creek, there's a slough that splits off and actually passes through the spring and connects back to Holmes Creek further south. You can see a prominent boil on the surface coming from the spring. Often the spring is very tannic because the creek flows directly through the spring. In this case, the water levels were low during the winter time, so we were able to get better visibility. Beckton Spring is a second magnitude spring. Originally, the spring was around 20 feet deep. In the early 2000s, the landowner nearby illegally excavated the spring for cave diving, which made it roughly 36 feet now. I'm not sure if they're natural or when the landowner tried to excavate the spring, but there's some really cool limestone monoliths down there. Some may notice that I still have a snorkel sometimes on dives. This can be dangerous if you're really pushing your limits because you can inhale water through the snorkel. Most of my dives are within my safe limits, usually 20 feet or so. If I go deeper and stay longer, then I'll take my snorkel out. Old habits can be hard to break. After checking out Beckton, we're going to paddle up the creek, pay a visit to Cypress Springs. After we made it back to Holmes Creek, my son went one way and I went the other, and we're going to see who gets there fastest. Looks like my son's route was faster. He even beat me at warp speed. On the way back, we're going to check out some of these sloughs. There's some other springs back there we're going to see if we can check out. We passed this place a few times and always wondered if there was a spring there, so I'm going to get in the water and take a quick look. You obviously don't want to get on the property. There's more trespassing signs than there is on a U.S. government installation. So after about 3/4 of a mile paddle, we arrive at the spring run for Cypress Springs. Cypress Springs is a second magnitude spring. There are 2 vents, one small and one large to the left. That's the smaller vent. We'll take a better look at that later. You can always find a prominent boil at Cypress. If it weren't for some man-made engineering, Cypress Springs would have the same water clarity problem that Beckton Springs has down the creek. There's a man-made levee and a culvert to the side that diverts the tannic creek water from flowing through the spring. During the warmer months, this place is packed with people. But during this time of year, you can have it all to yourself. This is the main vent. It can go roughly 75 to 80 feet, maybe even more. Some places haven't been mapped yet. Here's a good look at the smaller vent. Of course, my 13-year-old would like to take a few swings while we're here. Unfortunately, this rope is so short, it's very hard to get to the platform. One of the best springs in the Florida Panhandle. Always a joy to visit. So much for my son waiting on his old man. I love these cypress trees in Florida. They're kind of like our redwoods. They can get very ancient and huge. So after we made our way down the creek halfway to the landing, I stopped at this slough with just enough daylight to check it out. Supposedly there's some springs back in there. As it turned out, it was very difficult to get through the so-called spring run, especially trying not to puncture an inflatable. After a lot of effort and not much daylight, I tried to push through a shoreline area to see if I can see on the other side. So after some paddling obstructions, the spring run, creek, slough, whatever you want to call it, wraps back around over here. It's really hard to see though with not much daylight. We'll have to come back on another time for that.